The Labor Cost tab in the Item Detail Master Record is available for items set up as Material and Labor or Labor only. The Labor Cost tab is where you assign the payroll classes to the item and set up the base production rates and labor unit costs. Markups from escalation, labor burden, overhead, and profit may apply to the labor cost before reaching the final selling price, but it all starts here. There are 4 potential cost methods available depending on the sizing method assigned to the item: unit of measure, style, piece, and container. However, before we dig into the costing methods, let's discuss the payroll classes section first. The payroll class section allows you to assign crew members to perform the labor for the item. It doesn't matter which costing method you choose, each method requires you to add at least one payroll class. Therefore, you can set up your payroll classes before you make your final labor costing decision. To add a payroll class, click the New button on the right. A new blank line appears in the payroll class section. If you know the name of the payroll class you wish to add, you can type it in, or click the magnifying glass to look it up. Once you have a payroll class selected, you can tell QuickBid how many of that payroll class you need. For example, the item may only need one crew member of a single payroll class, or it could require a whole crew made up of multiple payroll classes. The choice is yours. The thing to be aware of is that the total base labor amount for all the crew members and payroll classes is what the cost at the bottom of the screen uses in its calculations. We'll get into that more in just a little bit. For now, let's go back to the labor cost method field. Unit of measure and container are available for every size method, so let's start there. With unit of measure as the cost method, the production section at the bottom of the screen looks at the unit of measure in the upper right-hand corner when performing the labor calculations. You see 3 columns: unit per hour, unit per day, and cost. The unit changes depending on the item's unit of measure. Unit of measure is a straightforward costing method. Considering all the crew members of the team, simply decide how many units the team can complete in an hour or day and make the entry in the appropriate field. Then QuickBid automatically applies the calculation to the other fields. At this point, you may be wondering how QuickBid decided upon the unit cost. First, QuickBid looks at the total base wages for every crew member. Then, that total is divided by the production rate you chose. So if the total base wages per hour were $100 and the production rate was 100 units per hour, then the cost field displays $1. The wage type used in the bid also impacts the unit cost. Generally, the item uses the wage type set on the cover sheet for the bid, which allows flexibility because you don't need to remember to change the wage type. However, suppose you know that an item should only ever use a specific wage type. In that case, you can force the item to always use that wage type by selecting it from the default wage type field at the top of the window. If you want the wage type to adjust automatically based on the bid, leave it set to default. If you don't like the unit cost, you can change it, and the production rates vary accordingly. However, be aware that this is the base unit cost. Additional markups like labor burden, overhead, and profit get added later. The next option is container. This method is typically only used in material and labor items. You can use this method if you'd rather set your production based on how fast your crew can install a whole box or carton of material instead of by the linear foot or square foot. If your item uses styles or styles with sizes, you can set up the cost by style. Like with the unit of measure, you set up the production based on the unit of measure, but you can have a different production rate for each style. Finally, if your item uses sizes or styles with sizes, you can set up the cost by piece. This method is similar to the container method. However, you set your production by individual pieces rather than the entire container. There's no absolute right or wrong costing method. It all comes down to personal preference. If you like a different costing method better on the next bid, just change it. Setting up items can be one of the most challenging parts of using QuickBid. If you have a current maintenance subscription and need help, please don't hesitate to submit a How Do I request to speak to a product specialist for assistance setting up items.